إلا رد فعل للظلم المتواصل الذي يمارس على أبنائنا في فلسطين وفي العراق.
Our war on terror begins with Al-Qaeda.
September 11th, 2001, the day that changed the world, when 9/11 became a term that was acknowledged in the global lexicon, a word that instantly invokes a devastating catastrophe. Superpower America was forced to rethink its security as well as its relations with the world. Its political thinking changed, so did its outlook. The audacious attack was targeted exclusively against America, but all the big powers rushed to its assistance. 9/11 signaled a conflict of worldwide proportions. Thousands perished, but the war didn't end. Afghanistan bore the brunt for harboring the attackers, with wave after wave of soldiers from America and NATO being sent to flush out terrorists from the country.
We have brought home 33,000 of our brave servicemen and women. This spring, our forces will move into a support role, while Afghan security forces take the lead. Tonight, I can announce that over the next year, another 34,000 American troops will come home from Afghanistan. This drawdown will continue, and by the end of next year, our war in Afghanistan will be over.
That statement by the American president should have been globally welcomed as a much-awaited end to the endless hostilities. But instead, Barack Obama triggered a wave of panic among quite a few nations, including India.
अंतर्राष्ट्रीय समुदाय उनकी सहायता, उस सरकार की सहायता करता रहे, तो फिर वो सरकार चल पाएगी। इसमें कारज़ाई साहब का भी इन आने वाले हफ्तों में एक बहुत बड़ा रोल रहेगा। बहुत उनका योगदान पॉजिटिव हो सकता है या नेगेटिव। अभी तक तो उन्होंने अमेरिका के साथ जो एक समझौता करना है, बायलैटरल सिक्योरिटी एग्रीमेंट जिसको कहते हैं, अभी तक वो माने नहीं हैं। ये भी एक बहुत ज़रूरी है कि कुछ अमेरिकी सैनिक और कुछ नेटो सैनिक अफगानिस्तान में स्थित रहे, क्योंकि अगर वो नहीं रहे तो फिर उसके परिणाम भी हम अफगानिस्तान ही के लिए नहीं, हमारे पूरे क्षेत्र के लिए नुकसानदायक हों।
For the last 14 years, the NATO soldiers or the International Security Assistance Force were the one formidable presence that confined the Taliban to their mountain hideouts. The biggest fear was what will happen if these troops left without setting up a self-reliant administration in Afghanistan. The question was, will the Taliban capture power again? Will it mark a return to 1996, the dark days when Osama's writ ran unchallenged in the country? And finally, where will all this leave India?
अमेरिका के जाने के बाद जो अफगानिस्तान में हालात होंगे वो एक गृह युद्ध जैसे होंगे, वो एक इंसर्जेंसी जैसी चीज़ें नहीं होंगी, एक सिविल वॉर होगा। और इस गृह युद्ध में साइकोलॉजिकल फैक्टर्स जो हैं वो ज़्यादा मायने रखते हैं। तो अगर एक सशस्त्र सेना सुदृढ़ हो, अगर उसके पास तोपखाना हो, उसके पास लड़ाकू विमान हो और टैंक हो, तो जो इंसर्जेंसी है, वो जो सिविल वॉर वाली जो स्थिति है, उसमें उसका पलड़ा हमेशा भारी रहेगा। क्योंकि अगर आप अफ़गानिस्तान का इतिहास देखें तो अफ़गानिस्तान में जो हुकूमतें बदली हैं वो लड़ाई में हार कर नहीं बदली हैं, लोगों ने अपना पाला चेंज कर दिया है।
It's not a question of nervous, it's a question of we set our face against this kind of thing. The fact is that the Taliban have conducted terrorist actions on Indian soil. They have been complicit in the Kandahar hijacking, which resulted in the loss of Indian lives. You're not going to suddenly wake up and say these people are okay to deal with.
We have to restore credibility in our security, sense of security and being. There are many, many big issues, but I'm confident that should the BJP form the government, we will be able to overcome that and come back to the position where we left the government in 2004. One where India could hold its head high proudly without compromising its strategic or its security or its economic concerns.
India has a big enough footprint in Afghanistan to be worried about the possible state of affairs. Consider these facts. India has invested over $2 billion to strengthen not only security in Afghanistan but also its development. It has acquired huge rights to iron mining, besides investing in a passageway to reach Afghanistan through Iran. Crucial to India's energy security plans are a stable political system in Afghanistan that will allow it to tap gas from the Turkmenistan-Afghanistan-Pakistan-India pipeline from 2017. A friendly government in Afghanistan helps India to guard Jammu and Kashmir from Pakistan. But if Pakistan gets a strategic hold on Afghanistan, the state is exposed to a potential rise in terror activities. Since 2001, a new generation was born in Afghanistan. It's been a generation that's grown up with violence, bullets, bombs and death. Its dreams and hopes lie crushed. It's difficult to say if it's the Taliban or America that's responsible for these indelible scars on its psyche. Although development in Afghanistan hasn't kept pace with the rest of the world, its people voted back the same government mainly to provide stability. Much of its progress owes a lot to the NATO. During this period, America also claimed it broke the Al-Qaeda and Taliban network. But that's not entirely true. The roots of the Taliban still persist. In fact, they are so strong that even the West has realized that not just fighting, it needs to talk to the Taliban as well. The West wants the Taliban to enter the system as a political party and contest elections. But the question is, will the Taliban leave the present system intact, or will it insist on changing it by imposing its will and conditions? The Taliban is still very strong in Afghanistan. It covers almost 2/3 of its territory, which is why if the Taliban is not included in the present system, there is much to justify the fear that once the US troops leave, the country will be plunged into a civil war. Exactly as it happened when the Russian soldiers left in 1989.
और उसके बाद आपको मालूम है सोवियत संघ के सैनिक आए और एक अंतर्राष्ट्रीय जिहाद शुरू हो गया और जिसका अंत नजीबुल्ला सरकार के गिरने के साथ हुआ और उसके बाद काफ़ी समय तक वहाँ पे एक अनसर्टेनिटी की स्थिति रही और जब पाकिस्तान का जो चूज़न कैंडिडेट था गुलबुद्दीन हकमतयार जब वो काबुल पे कब्ज़ा नहीं कर पाए तो पाकिस्तान ने तालिबान नाम के इस नए जीव की उत्पत्ति की और जिसने इवेंचुअली काबुल पे कब्ज़ा कर लिया और जिस नृशंसता के साथ प्रेसिडेंट नजीबुल्ला और उनके भाई की हत्या की गई वो मेरे ख्याल से घोर अमानवीय अपराध था। भारत के जो संबंध थे वो नॉर्दर्न अलायंस के साथ थे जो उत्तरी अफ़गानिस्तान में तालिबान के साथ लड़ाई कर रहे थे और जबकि तालिबान पाकिस्तान के अधिकतर प्रभुत्व में था।
Afghanistan is holding elections. The country will be selecting a new president to replace Hamid Karzai, but the question is, will the elections be fair?
अफगानिस्तान की स्थिति इस पर निर्भर करेगी कि क्या वहाँ के राष्ट्रपति चुनाव सफल होंगे या नहीं। अगर ये प्रतिक्रिया सफल हो गई और एक ऐसा राष्ट्रपति चुना गया जो कि सब अफगानों को कबूल हो और उस सरकार को की ये हैसियत होगी और ये सरकार की ये क़ुव्वत होगी कि वो जो तालिबान हैं या और आतंकी गुट हैं या जो सरकार के खिलाफ हैं उनसे लोहा ले पाएगी। राष्ट्रपति चुनाव अगर सफल नहीं हुए तो फिर जो अफगानिस्तान की स्थिति है वो बहुत ही कमज़ोर पड़ेगी, बहुत नाजुक हो जाएगी। अब हाँ, चुनौतियां और भी होंगी नई सरकार के सामने। आर्थिक चुनौतियां होंगी, सामाजिक चुनौतियां होंगी, राजनीतिक चुनौतियां भी होंगी।
In 2009, not much was expected from the elections. Amid allegations of booth rigging, electoral malpractice, Hamid Karzai became Prime Minister. But the question now is bigger. Will the new government be able to stand on its feet? Will the Afghan soldiers be able to protect their nation? It seems a tall order indeed. Once the thousands of foreign soldiers withdraw, it would be asking for the near impossible for Afghan soldiers to handle their internal problems all by themselves. The bilateral security agreement between the US and Afghanistan concedes this. America is therefore proposing to keep its soldiers stationed in some parts of Afghanistan. But so far, Hamid Karzai hasn't given his approval to this course of action. India has had an extremely cordial relationship with the Karzai government. It has always directed its efforts to ensure political stability. Afghanistan in turn has appreciated India's determination to make it self-reliant, a factor that's expected to work to India's advantage.
We built the Zaran-Zalaram highway, which has opened up a whole trade route to the southwest of the country. We have managed to string an electricity cable right up at a huge height of 3,000 meters, which is giving Kabul 24/7 electricity. We're building their parliament building, which will be inaugurated shortly. We have built a major dam that is also nearing completion. Plus the Indira Gandhi Mother and Child Hospital, a lot of girls' schools, small projects like that. And we're doing a bit of a training of officers and police here in India, bringing them from Afghanistan and training them here.
भारत ने बेखूबी संभाला अफगानिस्तान की स्थिति को, यानी जो हमारी अफगान नीति रही है वो मैं समझता हूँ काफ़ी हद तक सफल रही। आज के दिन अफगानिस्तान की आवाम भारत को पसंद करती है। वहाँ कुछ सर्वे हुए हैं जो ये दिखाते हैं कि भारत की जो सहायता रही है विभिन्न क्षेत्रों में, वो अफगानिस्तान की आवाम मानती है कि और किसी भी देश की सहायता से ज़्यादा अच्छी रही है।
But India's Afghan policy cannot be seen in isolation. It is significantly influenced by Pakistan as well as America. Whenever Pakistan got closer to Afghanistan, it has complicated India's relationship with it.
अफगानिस्तान के अंदर 2001 के जो 9/11 के घटना और उसके बाद अमेरिकी हस्तक्षेप के बाद एनडीए सरकार थी उन दिनों में, और उनको लगा कि अमेरिका सही मायने में आतंकवाद के खिलाफ लड़ने के लिए तैयार है। और इससे एक गलतफहमी भी भारतीय नीति निर्धारण करने वाले लोगों के अंदर पैदा हुआ कि पाकिस्तान जो आतंकवाद का मदद कर रहा था उसके खिलाफ भी अमेरिकी एक्शन होंगी। ये जो समझदारी है, ये समझदारी सीधी तौर पे अमेरिकी झुकाव के चलते हुआ।
Pakistan has often meddled in Afghanistan, be it training the Mujahideen or networking with Al-Qaeda or encouraging the expansion of Taliban. Not to forget sheltering America's most wanted man, Osama bin Laden. After 9/11, a large part of Pakistan's support to America was aimed at getting political benefit in Afghanistan.
अब पाकिस्तान एक फ्रंट लाइन स्टेट के तौर पे अमरीकी विदेश नीति के लिए उनके एक ज़रूरत बन गई अमरीकियों के पास, यह बात को भी अनदेखा की गई है।
But all its efforts to gain a foothold in Afghanistan have also harmed Pakistan. Terror attacks, violence and bombings increased in Pakistan. The same terrorists from Afghanistan were active in Pakistan. The very terrorists trained in Pakistan to pull the trigger on the Russian forces turned against it. Pakistan has tried hard to retain its hold on Afghanistan. Its efforts have borne fruit, but it's always come at a high price. Its involvement in the war on terror entailed a deal with America that would allow it access to American dollars and leverage in Afghanistan. But the deal also meant Pakistan bartered away its sovereignty. America's drones have flown over the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province, killing both terrorists and many civilians. The war on terror deal between Pakistan and America affected India as well in a big way. Thriving in Pakistan's unstable political environment, the terrorists have exploited its tottering economy to attack India. In the name of fighting the war on terror, America has practically occupied Afghanistan. No nation, not even India, can have bilateral arrangements without its approval. In the last 12 years, the Indo-US relationship has become secondary to the stakes of America in Afghanistan. For Afghanistan, the relationship with India is of great importance. It's also why President Hamid Karzai visited India thrice last year. India has insisted that Afghanistan should focus on acquiring weaponry apart from training its soldiers.
अमेरिका के साथ हमारा जो संबंध है वो जरूर हमारा इकोनॉमिक और दूसरे सवाल पे हमें करना चाहिए। अमेरिका एकमात्र महाशक्ति है सोवियत रूस का गिरने के बाद और दो ध्रुवीय दुनिया खत्म होने के बाद। भारत का जो रणनीति है, भारत का जो कूटनीति है, भारत का जो हस्तक्षेप है, वो अमेरिकी रणनीति के तहत नहीं होनी चाहिए। एक प्रभावशाली देश के साथ जो संबंध, वो संबंध तो हमेशा रहना चाहिए, लेकिन अगर उस संबंध को रखने का मतलब ये हो जाता है कि उस प्रभावशाली देश का जो रणनीति है या उनका जो देश है उनसे हमारी उद्देश्य को हम मिला दें, तो वो बहुत कूटनीति के हिसाब से, विदेश नीति के हिसाब से वो बड़ा नुकसानदेह होता है, वही दिखाई दिया।
We are doing at the moment is training, and training is something we can do well. Weapons, I'm not aware of any significant weapons program from India right now. They don't seem to be lacking in weapons, whether it's imported or manufactured locally. So I'm not sure that's a major need.
Many experts feel that India should send its troops to Afghanistan. They argue that not only can India help Afghanistan defend itself, but also safeguard its interests. The world is watching with concern the situation emerging in Afghanistan. The question is India ready for the challenge? What should be its political strategy in Afghanistan? Will India be able to safeguard its interests? And what is the way forward? Clearly questions that the next government will need to answer.
अफगानिस्तान में जो एक हुकूमत थी जो भारत विरोधी हो गई थी कुछ समय से, वो पहले तो बदली और उसके बाद काफ़ी समय तक वहाँ पे अमेरिका का काफ़ी हद तक प्रभुत्व रहा। जो अफ़गान जो हुकूमत थी उसकी इंडिपेंडेंटली डिसीजंस लेने की जो क्षमता थी वो शुरू में काफ़ी कम थी, पर जैसे जैसे ये क्षमता बढ़ती गई भारत और अफ़गानिस्तान के संबंध और मधुरतम होते चले गए। और यहाँ पे ये उल्लेखनीय बात है कि अफ़गानिस्तान ने सबसे प्रथम बायलैटरल सिक्योरिटी अरेंजमेंट जो है वो भारत के साथ किया और उसके अंतर्गत अफ़गानिस्तान के शासन में भारत से काफ़ी अपेक्षाएं थी कि भारत उनकी सहायता करेगा और वहाँ की जो सुरक्षा स्थिति है विशेषकर उसमें भारत से वो सहायता की अपेक्षा करते रहे हैं।
भारत एक स्वयंभू राष्ट्र है, भारत एक स्वयंभू राज्य है और जहाँ पे जो हमारे बहुध्रुवीयता है राजनीति में और उसका एक भूमिका है, तो वो संप्रभु जो भूमिका इराक के बारे में कुछ हद तक हम दिखा पाए और प्रतिबिंबन हुआ उसका, अफगानिस्तान के बारे में वो नहीं हो पाई थी। तो ये हमारी जो विश्वसनीयता है, इस विश्वसनीयता को नुकसान किया है।
So what are India's options? India should support people in Afghanistan who are against the Taliban. This should be similar to what it did by supporting the Northern Alliance. India should strategically ally with Russia and Iran. The two nations share their border with Afghanistan and don't want Taliban in power. India should try to exploit China's hesitation in propping up the Taliban. China is not in favor of a rigid political system that could affect its investments in the mining regions. Besides, it's already facing an Islamic backlash in Xinjiang and would not open new fronts elsewhere. If the Taliban agrees to the present constitution of Afghanistan and allows protection as well as equal rights to the people and women, then India should make friendly overtures to it.
We have basically expended a great deal of our own treasury. We're talking about pledging $2.2 billion, of which about 1.5 has already been spent. But we've spent it not on military stuff or on security very much, but principally on development projects that will be of benefit to the people of Afghanistan. So what is the message we're giving with all this? We are there to help you take control of your own destiny. We are there to help you build up your own capacity. And that is a very useful contribution that a friendly neighbor can make.
The situation in Afghanistan is one of a lot of concern and importance to us, because after all, after the American troop withdrawal, there is the fear about incursions into India by the jihadi or the Islamist terrorist network, and using certainly the Pakistan route. India's involvement, India has played a positive role in Afghanistan, there's no doubt. There have been developmental projects, but how do we bring all these, and we have a stake in the stability and security of Afghanistan, as we have a stake in security and stability around the region. We do desire to have good relations with everyone, and I think there's a consensus on that.
एक जो साउथ एशियन जो क्षेत्रीय जो प्रक्रिया है, इसका कमजोरी भी अफगानिस्तान में हमारी हस्तक्षेप का मुस्तैदी को काफ़ी हद तक सीमित कर दिया। अगर हम साउथ एशिया के तौर पे एक चर्चा करके हम अगर आगे बढ़ने का कोशिश होते हैं, तो उससे मेरे ख्याल में अफगान परिस्थिति में हस्तक्षेप हमारा और भी बेहतर हो सकता था।
The coming days will of course be important for both India and Afghanistan. Both are preparing for new governments and in many ways getting ready for a decisive change in the world order. Arfa Khanam Sherwani for Rajya Sabha TV.